Hello, my name is Aaron Holm, and I am the manager of consumer engagement for Ottobock North America. Welcome to our first show of 2022, and I'm super excited to introduce a Paralympic gold and silver medalist getting ready to defend his gold for Team USA in Beijing, a 10-time X Games gold medalist in 3 different sports. In 2008, Mike suffered a life-changing injury during snowmobile competition, resulting in the amputation of his left leg above the knee. 7 months later, Mike was back competing again on a prosthetic leg and foot, the Moto knee and VersaFoot that he engineered, realizing regular prosthetics would not handle the rigors of his sport. Welcome, Mike Schultz, or should I say Monster Mike Schultz?
Hey, Aaron. Yeah, you can call me Monster Mike. Sure, that works. That one's been around for a while.
That's been around for what 20 years, I think, right? That was your
Come on
motocross
now.
days.
I'm old, but not quite.
I read the book.
Suppose 2004.
Okay,
Yeah,
see,
that is 18. Oh man, you just dated me.
Sorry to age you. Sorry to age you, man. By the way, congratulations. I saw the official roster came out yesterday, and which you've kind of known was reinforced, right? You're going to be back competing in Beijing and leaving in just a few short days.
Yeah. It's been a wild ride this year. The last 2 competitions solidified my spot to qualify for the Paralympic Games in Beijing. We had world champs in Norway I ended up with 2 silvers in my 2 events, and then followed it up with a couple golds at the World Cup in Sweden. So yeah, I'm locked in and ready to represent the Stars and Stripes, red, white, and blue again.
That is awesome. Paralympic gold and silver 10 times, our 10 X Games gold medals, multiple other trophies. I'm sure when you're racing snowcross and motocross, building up from, you probably start CBA or something like that before you go pro, right? You must be a hell of a carpenter too, right? You got a trophy case the size of St. Cloud, or?
Yeah, it's incredible over the year. I've been competing for 20 plus years now, and yeah, I worked my way up through the amateur level, and became pro snowcross racer in 2003, and was charging hard, banging bars with the best of the best in the world, living my dream as a pro athlete. And then 2008 came around, and I had an injury during a competition that left me as a above knee amputee on the left side.
Yeah, let's talk about, you want to talk about that race a little bit? That was a snowcross race, correct?
Yeah, we were in northern Michigan. I got a horrible start, a hole shot, and coming into the first corner last, after I think there was 9 of us in that qualifying race, and I just put my head down and started charging through the snow dust, trying to make up some positions. And I hit a hole funny, and it pitched me off to the side at probably about 40 miles an hour. And I landed feet first. And on impact, my left knee took the bulk of the hit and hyperextended 180 degrees in the wrong direction. And it compound fractured, severed the popliteal artery, and I was a mess. The doctors did what they could to try and save it over the course of the next 3 days, but yeah, we just ran into some major circulation problems, and my kidney started shutting down, and I was in really bad physical condition. So they told me that the best course of action in order for me to continue to move forward would be to amputate my leg. And honestly, I was at the top of my game as a professional athlete, and to hear that was devastating.
Yeah, I bet it was an absolute shock. At what point, I mean, you're probably like I am, and like a lot of people, you knew nothing about prosthetics prior to being kind of thrown into this world. And knowing that you raced motocross and the anatomy and what you needed to take those vertical shocks and the pressures that the snow machines or the snowmobiles and the motorcycles are putting on you. At what point did you realize that what is available for daily ambulation wasn't going to cut it, and you start thinking about the Biodapt, or starting about the Moto knee?
Well, it was kind of funny. while I was still in the hospital, so I'm a garage guy. So I've got two sides to my personality or my story. Like I'm a competitor, like through and through, but I also, like, my second passion is designing and creating things in the workshop. I'm a metal fabricator. Um, so one of the ways I coped with my situation was trying to solve the problem of allowing me to continue in the things I love most. And the way I did that was thinking about my leg as a suspension component. I learned to walk 5.5 weeks after my amputation happened on a really basic mechanical knee, total knee 2100, which definitely teaches you the fundamentals of walking as an amputee. But I crashed hard a few times on that thing. If anybody's wore one, they understand exactly what I'm talking about. And that obviously wouldn't work for me getting back on my snowmobile or dirt bike. So I did some research, and there was very little options available back in 2009, for the action sports type activities. And I'm like, you know what? I think I could use my experiences from working in the shop and working on my suspension components, and I think I could build something. And over the next few months, so this was spring of 2009, hit the drawing board, designed a component designed around a Fox mountain bike shock. And I created this linkage system to give it the natural range of motion. And yeah, it was about 6-week project from start to finish of the first prototype. And right away I knew that, yeah, this thing is going to work. And it got me back on my motocross bike. My motivation at that point was the Summer X Games Adaptive Supercross. And 7 months after my injury happened, I was racing in Los Angeles in the biggest action sports stage, in the world, minus the Olympics. But yeah, I ended up getting a silver medal, which was, as good as gold to me.
Look at that picture. That is just such a cool photo.
Yeah,
181 is.
Oh yeah, the photo that was from 2013. That was the last time they had adaptive Supercross. That was in LA at the Staples Center. So that's me. Chris Ridgway was leading right there, and then Todd Thompson is behind me. Those two are below knee amputees.
Yeah, I can see your knee on that. Now, I said earlier that you were racing with the VersaFoot after 7 months, but you came up with the Moto knee at first, right? You incorporated the Fox shock into that. Were you using just an off-the-shelf foot at that point, or did you have something, a prototype foot as well?
At that point, right out of the gate, I just used my prosthetist, Chip. He actually had an old carbon fiber foot sitting on the shelf, and he's like, "Here, you can use this one." And so I used that one for the first summer. And actually, in that first Supercross race at the X Games, I came up short on the 90-foot jump, and I broke it in half, and in the final. And so every time I would hit a big jump, it would just like flex and my foot would fall off the foot peg. And I'm like, after the race, I'm like, okay, we gotta fix this problem too. So that's kind of what started the idea of creating a foot, which eventually called the VersaFoot.
Awesome. Now you were injured 13 years ago. Your motivation for these products were motocross and snowcross, and you're leaving on Tuesday to compete in snowboarding in at the world stage and the Paralympics for the second time in your life, competing at the Paralympics. What drove you, not from motocross and not from snowcross, but what drove you into trying snowboarding?
Yeah, that started in 2011. So this is a year after I officially started Biodapt. And I met a veteran at X Games. I was racing snowmobiles at the time. And he came up and asked me at X Games, he's like, "Hey, I saw this knee you're working on. Do you think it would work for snowboarding?" And that was the moment to where I'm like, okay, well, I should go test it out. I think it will, but let me go test it. And so I went home and I learned how to snowboard as an amputee. It wasn't pretty. Let me tell you, I hit the deck hard several times, but I learned enough that, yeah, this component that I was working on would work very well for snowboarding. I just have to learn the skills of the sport. So over the next 2 years, at this point, I was working with Walter Reed and working with a lot of the veterans, and they invited me to come out to Colorado to teach some of the vets how to use my Moto Knee and VersaFoot for snowboarding. And that's really what opened the door for me into that sport, and realized, like, man, this is a whole lot of fun. And started hanging out with the guys at Adaptive Action Sports in Copper Mountain. Dan Gale and Amy Purdy, they were part of the adaptive motocross at X Games, and then they really wanted me to come and try the adaptive snowboarding competitively. And once I started that, it opened the door. And in 2014, the Paralympic coach, he calls me up. This is after the first Paralympic Games that had snowboarding in it in Sochi, Russia. Like, hey, Mike, we saw you snowboarding at this last event, and we really think, if you commit yourself to it, you could be a competitor and maybe make it to the games in 2018. And that was a huge turning point in my life, because I'm from Flatland, USA, here in Minnesota. So snowboarding, snowboard cross is not a thing out here. And I'm all about handlebars and race gas. So this would pull me away from everything that, I'm used to. But the real motivator for making that turn into snowboarding was just thinking about what it would mean to represent Team USA at the Paralympic Games. And at this point, I had achieved a ton in adaptive motorsports, and I'm like, I think we should try this out. It was a long talk with my wife, Sarah, who's been, she's been my number one teammate, basically since we graduated high school. And, we've been together through thick and thin, and I always discuss everything with her. And yeah, we both came to the conclusion, like, we can't turn down this opportunity. We got to see where it could take us.
That's very cool. I don't know, Kayla or Mason, can we go back to that photo? Can we get that photo back up, the snowboarding photo? Or if not, were you the only one on the mountain with the helmet on, with the motocross?
Yeah, well, come
on.
Back in the day, all the motocrossers wore full face helmets. But yeah, so this is me at X Games in 2012, and that's my coach, Kep Kepi. And he was really the guy that helped me really learn how to snowboard at speed through a course. So that was a big year there. I had no business being on a snowboard cross X Games course, but he helped me through it, and that was kind of the launching point of my border cross career.
And that was how many years ago? 7 years ago?
2012.
Okay.
That was kind of a one-off event that I did, because they didn't have they didn't have adaptive snowcross at X Games that year. So the snowboard guy's like, hey, why don't you try this out? I'm like, sure.
So the people out there watching this, you picked up a sport 10 years ago, and you're just preparing for your second Paralympic Games in snowboarding on something you just started 10 years ago. That's really cool. Nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was very focused in on every time I was on snow, trying to learn the techniques and how to go faster. And I learned all that being a professional athlete in the snowmobile side.
So you just returned from Lillehammer, and you're leaving for Beijing, I think you said, on Tuesday. I mean, what does that in between look like? You're probably being very careful, maybe hiding from the world per se, to stay healthy with all the variables, all the things happening, the pandemic, and you kind of grounded right now, or are you?
Yeah, it's this time around is a lot different because of the COVID protocol and situation, which is a major bummer. I mean, it's changing how we're doing everything. And so basically the last week, so I set aside 2 weeks ahead of my departure to where I'm I'm basically at home. I'm very fortunate. I've got my gym here, which I'm in right now, and my workshop is, on my home property. So my world is pretty small right now. I'm training here, working at Biodapt in the next room over there, and then training at Powder Ridge, and minimizing any outside contact because a positive test could totally affect my trip to China and possibly even take me out of the games completely. So it's a extremely serious situation that I'm trying to navigate through to, not catch any bugs between now and the time I leave.
Yeah, watching some of the Olympic sports and the games, and you and I talked about this before, but I think it'd be interesting for people watching here is we heard a lot about the talk about the snow conditions, man-made snow, and you had a great comment about that's good percentage of the snow is man-made that you're practicing on here, you're snowing or skiing on or snowboarding on.
Yeah, the media always likes to pull apart certain things to focus on, and I haven't been to China, so I don't know exactly what the conditions are like, but yeah, most of the time we are competing on man-made snow. I mean, there's a lot of resorts here in the Midwest and on the East Coast that can't rely on natural snow, so they all got snow guns and they create their own snow. So I know the unique part about China during the Olympics happening right now is it's extremely cold. So the snowmaking conditions when it's that cold makes it really dry and a little tacky almost. So it's challenging, and I've heard a couple comments that the conditions are a little inconsistent. So that's been a challenge, like with the alpine racing and stuff. So, but it's nothing new. It's just you have to the technicians have to set up your equipment to manage those conditions the best they can, and it's an art form, or a science, I should say,
Yeah.
for our wax techs.
Absolutely. And as you can see in the bottom of the screen here, individuals that want to post some questions, I think we'll have time for a few of them towards the end of the interview. So just post your questions in the comments section, and we'll address a few of those at the end here. Talk about the events you'll be competing in, other than all the commercials that we've seen you in. How are we going to find you in Beijing? What should we look for? You're LL1, right? Is that your
That's
class?
my classification. So I've been doing two events. One is snowboard cross, which is racing head to head with three other athletes. So there's four of us going down the course at a time. We drop out of a start gate at the same time, and yeah, we navigate through jumps and rollers and turns. And the first one to cross the finish line is the winner. And we go through brackets in order to get to the final, the big final. And so it's the unique thing about snowboard cross is there's so many variables. I mean, we're relying on gravity to get us down, and there's certain ways and techniques we can do through the course to try and generate speed, like pumping through rollers or drafting. Drafting is a big thing, getting in the slipstream of other athletes and, at the most opportune moment, and then, slip by them right before the finish line. And then the second event is bank slalom, which is a course setup. We do one at a time. It's a race against the clock. We get two runs, so it's the best of two, and it's a course with a series of bank turns in it. And our courses will be around a minute in length. Between 45 seconds and a minute 15 is kind of the general range that we compete on in the World Cup. So I'm thinking the Paralympic Games will be around a minute, and it's really incredible to see the coverage that the Paralympics are getting these days. Since Pyeongchang in 2018, we had decent coverage if you knew where to look for it. Tokyo is a lot better. They had some on mainstream TV, NBC, and for these Paralympic Games, the Winter Paralympic Games coming up, we're going to have some really great coverage on NBC, even some on primetime. And then Peacock is also going to air everything, all of the Paralympic competitions, so you can search through that. And then also, I know the Paralympic Games have a YouTube channel where they'll replay everything on there too.
And I don't think the times for the bank slalom and snowboard cross are released yet, but people can certainly keep an eye out on the Ottobock social pages, the Biodapt, Monster Mike Schultz's social pages, and I think that'll be certainly announced on those pages as well, so people can watch that live or during primetime NBC. I think that is just such an exciting deal that it is going to be broadcast in prime time. That's just going to bring so much more awareness to adaptive sports and just adaptive people. Just people that depend on prosthetics or have disabilities, just doing some just incredible things. So, an exciting year, I think, for a lot of us in the community. As you know, and you probably saw us in Beijing or in the previous Paralympic Games, but Ottobock has a huge technical tent out there. Did you get in there at all and walk through it, or?
Yeah, I did. I
Oh,
think
did
I
you?
actually utilized. I think I actually utilized one of their leg chargers for a little bit. Or
Oh, good.
I went in there and grabbed it for another guy. That's what it was. Um, but yeah, it's definitely a useful piece for us because when we're trying to remember all of our other equipment, if we forget something like a leg charger, or if we have an issue with a socket, or one of our everyday walking around legs, we've got support there. So it's a very
Yeah.
key thing.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's something that we've been doing, or Ottobock's been doing since basically day one of the Paralympic Games. And it doesn't matter if you have an Ottobock product or somebody else's product. They want to keep you in the game. They want to keep you ambulating. So certainly utilize that if needed. I get a kick out of the product that you designed, engineered through Biodapt, the VersaFoot and the Moto knee, and how it's taken off. And you've got the stats, but how many of your competitors, even in the next several weeks, you're going to be competing against people that you've sold this product to, and I'm sure globally, correct? I mean, you've sold these all over the world.
Yeah, it's incredible. Like, I wear a unique pair of hats. I'm the competitor, and I'm also the manufacturer of some real high performance competition equipment, prosthetic equipment. And yeah, all of my main competitors in my class are using equipment that I built in my shop. And the catch is when I build something better, when I upgrade a component, I'm giving it to these athletes and it's making them faster. And you know, in our sport, we're within tenths of a second of each other. So it's like if I give them just a little bit better,
Yeah.
it's a tough thing. It's a tough thing to wrap my head around as as a competitor. But the other side of it is I look at this so much bigger from a broader perspective. And yes, I want to do everything I can to win, me personally, but the bigger picture is what I'm doing with Biodapt is I'm raising the bar for our entire sport and the performance that we're, and the things we're capable of. When I started competing 8 years ago now, on the Paralympic tour, uh, the gap between our classification and the LL2, which is basically the lower limb, below knee amputees for the most part, we were separated by around 10 seconds on a 1 minute course. And this year in the bank slalom, our class, our group has put down the fastest times in a bank slalom course out of all of them in a couple instances, which is incredible. And I mean, you amputees that are listening right now, you understand the difference of, like an above knee and a below knee amputee and functionally how we're able to maneuver. But for those that you don't know, it's like every joint that you're missing, you lose an incredible amount of control. So, being able to ride a snowboard as a below knee amputee is a lot easier than as an above knee amputee because you just don't have that control over your knee joint. And so with the Moto knee that we've been developing and the system around that has been able to kind of close the gap a little bit. And it's just incredible to be part of a part of the story that are helping so many other athletes, raise their performance level through prosthetic equipment. And I think at our last either as world champs or yeah, it was world champs. I think the top 8 athletes in my class were all wearing Biodapt equipment that I built in my shop, which is, even if I don't find myself on top of the podium, I'm still winning. It's I'm great friends with all of my competitors. When the helmet and goggles go on, it's a different story. But beyond that, beyond the finish line, it's an incredible group of athletes to work with, and I'm very happy to be able to help out the sport in a bigger level than just as an athlete.
That's great. That's incredible stats with the increase in times the betterment of times for, like you said, above knee amputees. Well, just the ability that an above the knee amputee can snowboard. I mean, I can't imagine trying on a mechanical knee. It's just the room for error there is huge. How about this? Recently released, Driven to Ride. I am about 3/4 of the way through it. Just getting to the part where it starts showing some pictures, which is more my speed than the reading. But no, I've actually cruised through this. Sarah sent these books out to us last week, I think it was, and I picked it up and I just started reading, and it's just amazing, and the level of detail. How do you remember those details? You talk about the trucks pulling up when you were part of the racing team, and the names and all the stuff. It was a huge part of you and Sarah's life, obviously, going town to town, city to city, and competing on a national level. But just very, very neat. It's a great book.
Oh, thank you. It was some good therapy, going through the writing process. We had an amazing co-writer, Matt Higgins, out of New York, who I've known for a long time through X Games and stuff. And he did such an amazing job putting, our story into the text on the pages. That's a handsome young man there, isn't it? Huh?
Jeez, let me get my hand out of your face there. Look at that.
Yeah, it was, it was a group effort between Sarah and I, coming up with all the details of that far back, because it covers a 10-year period. It starts just the season before I got injured in 2008, and covers some snowcross and the ups and downs of that, and then my accident, and then all the adventures that happened after that. It was such a roller coaster. There's so many good moments, and then there was so many tough, challenging moments. And I'm just so glad we were able to put it together in a book. And, originally one of the biggest motivators for writing the book was just, I didn't want to forget those details over time. And I wanted to be able to share it with my family in the future, and, creating a good book and showing it to others, or letting others read it and hopefully get motivated when they're going through a tough spot.
How do people get a hold of the book?
Well, it's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Target for Minnesota, or Midwest here. Target carries it. I don't know how many Target stores will have it on the shelves, but definitely online. You can find it in a handful of places.
Are you planning some book signings post Paralympic Games, or what does an author like you do with a book?
Yeah, it's been a little challenging because it released January 18th while I was over in Norway, and I would have loved to do in-person signings, right after I got home, but yeah, with the COVID, I wasn't able to do that. So after the games, I will definitely be scheduling some book tours. I'll do some local ones here in Minnesota, and then also around the country. So you guys will have to just stay tuned to my social media with the book tour information.
What is your social media? What people watching can jot that down and connect with you?
Yeah. So my biggest 2 accounts are Instagram, which is my favorite, Monster Mike Schultz. Facebook is also Monster Mike Schultz. And then I do have a Twitter account, Monster Mike 5, which I honestly don't have a whole lot of action on Twitter. It's mainly Instagram and Facebook. And then also
you're pretty active.
Biodapt.
That's great. In the book, you can't help but notice, and you've talked about her a little bit already, but Sarah, your wife, the quarterback of your recovery and your life, just can't say enough about how much she's contributed to, obviously before your injury, even after your injury, and she's a nurse by your side the entire time, but it really, really shows in the book how much involvement her and now your daughter Lauren have been involved with your success here.
That photo right there just tells it all. That was right after I won gold in Pyeongchang, and I'll never forget the look on and the excitement on Sarah's face when I crossed the finish line. It was on a jumbotron, a 30-foot wide TV screen, and just the emotions on her face in that moment. It was so much more than just my moment. It was our moment, and everything that we overcome at that time. It honestly, it didn't have a whole lot to do about snowboarding. It was about overcoming so many obstacles and being there representing Team USA, and just performing my best when it mattered most. And it was definitely a team effort all the way around. And then you also saw my daughter Lauren there. She's 8 right now, and she's been so much fun. She's been my little gym training partner. She's a gymnast, and so we're always skiing together, like in that photo, and she's always hanging out in the gym here with me. And one of my big motivators for going to Beijing was because I so wanted her to be able to experience that with us, but unfortunately they won't be able to attend. They gotta stay home. They'll be going to Park City friends and family viewing party. Yeah, it's a bummer. I would have really loved to have my family in Beijing cheering me on.
Yeah, you'll see them and you'll miss them, but you'll certainly, I'm sure, be in touch with them throughout. What obviously a huge part of what I said, the care team, Sarah, and you also mentioned in your book Chip, your practitioner, who was with Prosthetic Labs and now Hanger, but Chip providing that guidance and giving you some knowledge on the technology that you could break and remake and redo, and a lot of trial and error, but certainly a good asset for you as well when coming to the equipment side of things.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. He's my leg mechanic. Yeah. I mean, he should, he could be on NASCAR pit crew. Now I was very fortunate right from the start to work with him. He's very thorough, and I've worked with him since day one. And see, what was it, January 2009, and he always had an open mind, and he was always, from the start, he was like, "What are your goals? We shouldn't cut them short just because you're an amputee now," and that's followed through to this day. And yeah, he's brought me equipment that he was knowledgeable about, and if he didn't know something, he would straight up say it, and he would help me try and find a solution for it. We'd research it, and yeah, he's kept me going for a long time with the equipment, and we've made different designs of sockets and everything specifically for sports, whether it be stronger or different fits or lower cut lines or brim lines, in order for me to move the way I need to do. So he's very much a big part of my team in allowing me to perform as an amputee. Absolutely.
Yeah, and like you said, he gets creative. Just a couple of years ago, he went out of the norm, I think, to go after a microprocessor controlled knee and X3 that typically, do not get covered by private insurance. But he went for it, and your team, they were successful in getting it covered. So that was a big victory. I think I love seeing that. I know it's possible. It's possible, and it is a lot of time and effort, but it can happen. So the more we see that, it's going to be better for the community, obviously. So
absolutely,
I think that's a big win.
Yeah. It's difficult, when we're trying to reach for these really high end components, and obviously they're very expensive, but they're created for people to use them and perform. And when you're a perfect patient to utilize it, it's worth fighting for. yeah, I mean, you were by our side too through that conversation. And it took a lot of effort, a lot of emails back and forth and requests, and yeah, it was well
Yeah.
worth pursuing, and yeah, we're really happy we got it. I'm definitely, it's making my life easier ambulating around. I'm currently on the X3, which is an amazing product that allows me to get through my day pretty efficiently.
That's cool. Now, I got to go back to the day when you started out reading in the book, when you started going back to the races and started kind of coaching the team. And you talk about, we used to call it Zumbro Falls. When I was growing up, it was Zumbro, but now is it Millville, the track? It's just a beast of a motocross track.
Yeah, the
And you
national
weren't
track in
walking,
Millville.
yeah, you weren't walking the track with a prosthetic on, right? I mean, that's what it sounded. That's what I was reading in the book. I'm like, there's no way this guy is 7 months or whatever after the accident and walking that track. I couldn't walk that track when I was able-bodied. It's just a beast. You
Yeah,
must have
yeah.
had a four-wheeler or something.
Well, I'm trying to think of what you're talking about. Yeah, Millville. That I remember going there. I was on my totally 2100 skipping around. Basically I was army crawling up those
Okay.
hills. But yeah, I think you're talking about Canterbury, maybe the snowcross race.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, because that was the race that I came back and my teammate Tim Tremblay won his first semi-pro race. And yeah, just being able to be in that racing environment again gave me so much. Uh, it brought things back to me that was familiar. And, being around my people, and that's the one thing as a competitive athlete that travels the race tour around the country or around the world. It's the group of people, the like-minded people that are motivated towards the same goal, which is, not many people really understand that until they're in that family of people. And at that time, it was definitely my snowcross family, which rallied around both Sarah and I, and did everything they could to help us out. And yeah, that was one of my favorite parts in the book. So, but you got to read it.
Yeah,
You got to read it for
yeah.
yourself.
Yeah, you guys gotta read this. Like I said, it is a great book, and just incredible how far you've come in a few short years. So that's very cool. I just think you probably just got back to Canterbury and smelt the exhaust and you're hooked again, right? I mean, that's exactly a good whiff of that. That's good smell. But so what's next for Mike? I mean, what's next for Mike and Sarah and Lauren? What's going to happen when you come back from Beijing? You're going to do a little book signings maybe, but
Yeah, it's everything for the last 9 months has been 100% focused in on the games coming up here in the next couple of weeks. Um, but beyond the games as a competitor, it's a little up in the air. I'm towards my latter part of my competitive years. I'm 40 years old now, and I've accomplished an enormous amount. Am I ready to hang up the racing boots yet? I don't know. We'll kind of see that after the games, or maybe months after that. But I do know I'm looking forward to some R&R and simplified life for a bit. Minus the whole book tour signing that'll probably kick off pretty much right after I get back from the games. But I plan on spending a whole lot of time in the woods up northern Minnesota, with our horses and camping, and just chilling out for a few months. As far
I
as
love
Biodapt
it.
goes, we're continually innovating equipment for sports, and I've got a whole drawing board worth of really exciting stuff. And once I get some more time away from the snow and my snowboarding, maybe I can pick some of those drawings and designs back up and keep charging forward with that.
Well, when you fly home, we should be looking at a good melt. It'll be what, close to April when you get back to the Twin Cities, right?
Yeah, I'll be
To
back on March 15th, 16th. I'll be back on the 16th or so. So I'll be ready for winter to be done when I get home. I'll be like, no, like
I
get the
suppose.
snow out of here.
Yeah, a Minnesota guy going somewhere where we got more snow and cold. I'm ready to get somewhere warm here soon. But
Aaron,
you
I've
know,
never been on a beach vacation. Never. Maybe that's something I'm
really,
going to do next winter.
I got a place for you to go. Meet us in early April. I'll tell you about it. But it'd be a good. It'd be interesting to see you on the beach. On the sand and the concrete and not the dirt sand that you're accustomed to with the motorcycles. But
Yeah, I don't know how to get
um,
through the sand without two wheels and knobby tires.
exactly, it's not possible. Well, that's it, Mike. I'm thrilled to watch you, to follow your progress over the next several weeks, as I'm sure everybody listening is excited to follow your success and Team USA. A great team is formed. Noah and Ty, um,
Tyler
who
Burdick?
else? Tyler, yeah. And somebody was just named on the team today again. I saw.
Yeah,
So
exciting. So Mike Spivey, he's a veteran.
okay.
It was so we're allowed a certain number of positions for each classification in our sport, and they added an additional one. And Mike Spivey is able to join us, which is incredible. Yeah, he's an awesome dude and a great snowboarder. So, yeah, and then we got Keith Gable, Evan Strong, Brenna Huckabee, Mike Miner,
Great
Garrett
group.
Garros. I know him. Brittany Curry, Katie Madry.
Brittany.
It's her first time. Yep, Brittany's
Okay.
coming. So yeah, it's just a rad group of athletes, and that's one of the highlights is traveling the world with great people, and we just get to snowboard on the mountains all around the world.
Absolutely. That's great. Do you have time for a couple questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do we have a couple questions, Mason? What are your thoughts on the growing mainstream representation of the Paralympics and adaptive sports? What are your hopes for future representation?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, it's definitely getting better. Absolutely. From the time I became an amputee in 2008 to where we are now with the coverage of the Paralympic Games and adaptive sports. There's a couple things that have helped. That social media is incredible for bringing groups of people together who can share their stories, which makes them so much more powerful. And then, yeah, the way the mainstream is slowly starting to pick up, these amazing stories of adaptive athletes, is extremely helpful. And I'm really happy to be part of this movement right now as it's growing and getting better. And I think the biggest value that the additional coverage has is it's showing it to more amputees and more people with disabilities, and it's shining that light on these activities that honestly a lot of them didn't think were really possible. And when you can showcase that on mainstream TV, it is incredibly powerful and motivating for so many. And then it just it just keeps building. Like I was in 2009, I didn't figure I'd be able to ride a dirt bike anymore until a great friend of mine now, Jim Wozni, he flicked that switch for me, and he's like, "Hey, yeah, you don't have to give it up. You just got to figure out another way to do it." And that just opened the door up, and that's what this coverage is doing right now. So it's growing.
It
There's a lot
is.
of amputees out there, and they'll be able to
Yeah.
do incredible things.
Yeah, you think I was injured in 2007, so just a year before you were, and there was nothing back then. There was absolutely no knowledge, and now you see, and I mean, people that were injured recently see some hope and inspiration just by some of these commercials that you're in and others are in, and obviously seeing is believing, so that's very cool. Next question, Kayla. Can an above knee use your knee to ski, or is that really designed for snowboarding?
Skiing, yeah, absolutely. So the cool thing about our Moto knee is the versatility of it. When I created it, it was originally for motocross racing, but I wanted it to work more than that. And skiing and snowboarding are similar as far as functions. The skiing, the alignment and calibration is slightly different because it's basically you're going to have it pre-flexed a little bit more than what you would on a snowboard. So yeah, I learned how to ski as an amputee before snowboarding. My wife Sarah grew up skiing, so she's like, "You should try skiing, so we can go ski together." And it works very well. And we actually have a specific downhill ski foot called Alpine foot, which clips directly into the binding, and it. Yeah, absolutely. Check it out. You can go to our website, and I think I've got some pictures or videos of me skiing on it. That works really good.
All right, next question. What's the next stage in Paris snowboarding as a sport? Any new events you see coming to light? Or checking involved, maybe a little physical.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's kind of at a stage right now where I think it can grow. Like the difficult part where we have been the last several years and where we are right now is there's not a whole lot of specific adaptive snowboarding competitions. And, the more traction we get in the media, the more interest there's going to be. And hopefully the more club teams or clubs will start seeing adaptive racing in border cross and bank slalom and slalom or GS. It's incredibly fun. And it's something that a lot of people can have access to. So I so hope that this additional coverage that we're starting to get will help create more awareness around the sport. Because I would love to see additional in the Paralympics. I would like to see additional sports like the GS, like giant slalom, and maybe slalom. Equipment might be a little bit different, but just to have more events within the Paralympics would be ideal.
Perfect. Well, thank you. Thank you for your time tonight. I know you're so busy preparing for taking off next week, and we so much appreciate you joining us and sharing a part of your story. All of it can be found right here on Driven to Ride. I got to get used to this camera. But on behalf of the entire team at Ottobock, we wish you the best of luck and success in the upcoming Paralympic Games, and go Team USA.
Oh, thank you, Aaron. Yeah, it's been a pleasure chit-chatting, and yeah, as far as the coverage, stay tuned to my social media, Monster Mike Schultz, and we'll be posting like airing times and all that fun stuff. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to get to China and get the job done.
And what did you say? Grip it and rip it, some sort of thing like that.
Yeah, grip it and rip it. Oh man.
There's got to be a term for it.
Twist and grip, but I got no handlebars. That's the whole problem with this snowboard stuff.
Right.
I got no handlebars.
It's just powerful. It's just powerful, Mike. Twist and grip. All right, sir. Greet the family. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aaron. You have a good night.
Good night. You too. Bye now.